Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and just get started. So hi, everybody. Thank you for coming to our last info session for Science Olympiad. Um, we're gonna introduce ourselves really quickly. We're your three co-captains for this year. I'm Hannah.
I'm April. I'm not connected to stable Wi-Fi right now, so unfortunately I can't turn on my camera, but I will be available for questions if need be.
I'm Evan.
Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, so first off, what is Science Olympiad or SciOly? SciOly is a team-based science competition, and there are 23 different events that the team competes in each year. And these 23 events cover most major fields of science, ranging from things like ornithology, like the study of birds, like forensics, which is about crime. And you can divide these events up also into subcategories of study events, engineering events, and lab events. So regarding commitment, you can expect SciOly is definitely a pretty big time commitment, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. The majority of your time will be spent at weekend study meetings or studying individually on your own throughout the week. You can expect to spend at least a couple of hours a week, and that time commitment may increase as we get closer to competition. Here we also have listed some potential important dates for competitions we might attend. Everything's a little bit weird this year because it's online, but these are just some confirmed invitationals that we may be attending this year. And also keep in mind that most Science Olympiad competitions, as can be seen here, take place in second semester. So this is when you'll have to do a lot more work. So if you know that you have a sport second semester or a really big time commitment second semester, you might want to consider that before trying out for the team.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the different types of events. So for study events, you'll be, as the name suggests, you'll study for a certain topic, and at the actual competition, you'll take a written test to showcase your knowledge. So some examples of these are designer genes in anatomy and physiology. There's also lab events. So for these events, there's usually a written portion, like a written test, and also a lab portion where you have to collect data on site. And one example of this would be chemistry lab. And there's also weird events, which are kind of like mixes, or they don't fall into other categories. And some examples of these are experimental design and Write It, Do It. For these, they test more of your general science skills than any one single topic. And lastly, there's also engineering events. So as the name suggests, for engineering events, you build things, and you have access to a lot of sophisticated design and fabrication tools at MakeX, which is a place where you can work on your engineering projects. It's at Coverly, but currently it's not open. So going forward, we'll see what happens. The format for our team at Paly is that it's completely student run. This is kind of different to a lot of other schools, because a lot of other schools will have parent or teacher coaches, but at Paly, all the mentors are all the same age, maybe 1 or 2 years older than you. And this really cultivates a very vibrant community, especially at those weekend study meetings. At Paly, there's 2 teams for SciOly. There's a green and white team. The green team is our varsity team, and white team is our junior varsity team. But both teams they still compete at a very high level. I think in 2017, green team got first at regionals, and then white team got third. And also this year, another thing to note is that there's going to be more opportunities for alternates to compete this year, because there's a lot more trial events this year, which are events that don't count for the final team score, but you can still get medals from them. And obviously this year, the format of the competition is going to be a little different. So ideally, it would be a traditional Science Olympiad competition where every school goes to one place to compete. But if that's not possible, then the next best option is assuming that schools are open, and then you can have each school compete from their own school. And the worst case scenario would just be to have every person test from their own home online. And if that's the case, then some events will not be able to run, especially like engineering events. So this is a whole list of events that would run if it was completely online. You can look at this later. We'll send out the slides. And also this year, there's a new resource that's called MySO. So it's a monthly like set of materials, and each month has a different theme that's related to a different like science topic. So one example is like epidemiology, and these are related to different Science Olympiad events. So epidemiology would relate to disease detectives. And through MySO, there will be a lot of free resources, webinars and interviews with like a lot of experts, really exciting stuff. And every month there will be an individual competition that's online where you can get prizes. For our tryouts process, this year they're going to be after school on the week of September 28th. There's 30 minutes for each test with 15 minutes in between each test. That would be like for submitting and to get ready for the next test. Please do not be late to your test. This is very important because you guys do not have a lot of time for these tests. And also on Friday from 5:30 to 6:45, there is an engineering test. This is required for everyone. You don't need to study for it. And this is kind of like one big test that is helping us see your general engineering skills. And there's two different like formats for the test this year for our tryouts. There's stations events, which include ornithology and fossils. For these events, tests are typically split into different sections, each with their own like time limits. So for these tests, the proctor will share their screen with the questions on them, and then they'll switch to the next section of the test when time's up. And for all other events, once you join the Zoom meeting, the proctor will share a link to the test in the Zoom chat, and every participant will have to share their own screen just to ensure that you're not like Googling things. Before each test, you should get a paper and pencil ready. You also might have like access to a calculator or a note card depending on the event. We'll talk about that later. On every single piece of paper, you'll have to write your first and last name, your event name, and the page number on every sheet of paper. And test submission this year is going to be kind of similar to AP testing, where once the 30 minutes are up, you're given 5 minutes to take a picture of your work, and then you'll submit it to a Google form that we send out. And you guys have exactly 5 minutes. If it's submitted after the deadline, we're going to be pretty strict about this. Please show up 10 minutes early before every test so that we can look through note cards and calculators and things like that. The Zoom links will be posted on our website, and we'll email them out too. Please don't cheat because we really value academic integrity. And to help ensure this, we're going to have you place your computer slightly away from you just so we can kind of see your like hands in your workspace. And we'll be watching the testers in grid view and flipping through the different screen shares just to see that you're not searching things up. But searching things up is not going to be helpful like at all for these tryout tests. These tests are written by top teams around the nation, and they're meant to be taken in 50 minutes by two partners, but we're only giving you 30 minutes like to individually take it. So it's really going to be a massive time crunch, and it's going to be a lot more beneficial to just focus on the test and try to finish as much as you can instead of wasting time Googling, because you really can't spare any seconds.
Okay, cool. So now that we've gone over most of the tryout logistics things, how can you actually like prepare for tryouts? So the first thing, and this is really important, is we want everybody to fill out this new member profile that we have. Pretty much it's like a Google form that asks us some basic questions about you, like name, grade, etc., as well as which events you're interested in trying out for. This is really important because we'll send out like reminder emails to you about the different events. So if you don't mark it, like you won't get that reminder and you might forget about the test. And we'll also ask you questions about like your extracurriculars, time commitments outside of school, because we also take that into consideration when we're making our team placements. And in addition, please make sure you're available on the following testing dates. So after school, September 28th to October 2nd. This kind of depends on like which events you want to take, but you can reference the event table that's on our website, as well as the one that's linked on the slides. And also please make sure you're available for the engineering test, which is on October 2nd, and this is mandatory for all members. In addition, when you're filling out your new member profile, we'll ask you like which events you're interested in trying out for. And we suggest that you select at least 3 tests to take because in SciOly, each person competes in maybe like 2 to 4 events. So like you can't just be good at one single event. You have to be able to do a lot of different tests. And also you never know if like there's going to be event overlap or something along those lines. So yeah, at least 3 tests, but we'd honestly suggest 4 to 5. So now, how can you study for your events? First, on our website, we will have the rules linked for each event. So when you choose your events, make sure to go over the rules carefully, and they'll have guidelines kind of like broken up into the different sections of each event and what you can expect. In addition, you can also check out our website. Again, our website has a lot of information, so if you ever have a question, please go there first. And on our website, we have links to some member written guides for each event. So these are like kind of they're really short, really easy to understand, straight into the point. And also with these guides, we have suggested study resources. And these resources should be pretty good because these are people who have competed in the events in past years. So this is like how they personally study. So you know that it should be pretty effective. In addition, you can definitely check out SciOly, SciOly.org, Wikipedia, and just textbooks. Those are also really good resources. And yeah. So what to expect, this is going into a little bit on the note cards that Evan mentioned before. Maybe just flip to the next slide, sorry. Yeah, so depending on which event you're doing, you may or may not be allowed to bring a note card with like notes on them, right? So as you can see here, we have this like note card column, and if it says yes, that typically means that you're allowed to bring a 2-sided note card with whatever notes you want on them. And those notes can be printed or written out by hand. The only regulations for that are that the note card must be 3 inches by 5 inches, and we'll check your note card when you enter the Zoom room to make sure that like your note card follows the guidelines. In addition, for some events, you're allowed to bring like a scientific calculator, a graphing calculator, or like a 4-function calculator. We'll also check this when you enter the room. And then please also note the other parameters. So for some specific events, you're only allowed to have like a 1-sided note card rather than both sides, and that is all listed on the right side. So those are just anatomy and forensics. And then another important thing to note is if you're doing the station events, so that's fossils and ornithology, you can print out the fossils list or the bird list, which is included on the rules document, and this should be pretty helpful. So we'd recommend that you do this for these 2 events. And then another quick note about the station events. Again, please make sure to like mark that you're going to be competing in these events or that you want to try out for these events in your new member profile, because we'll probably be sending you an answer sheet ahead of time that you can fill out just to make the grading procedure easier. Some general side notes and tips to keep in mind when you're selecting your events and also just when you're studying. First off, the biology events are pretty popular because everybody takes bio their freshman year. So just keep that in mind. Again, also I mentioned this before, but try not to just do well in one event and don't prioritize one event over the other, because we want to see that you have a lot of breadth, not just depth. And also please make sure to just like pick events you're interested in. Like you're going to be working on and studying these events for the rest of like the semester or the rest of the school year, right? And you don't want to get stuck with an event that you don't really actually like. Study hard. SciOly is pretty competitive. Tryouts, like we always get a lot more applicants than we're able to like accept onto the team. So really study hard, and I think that if you do study hard, you'll almost like always see really good results. And if you have any other questions, you can email us at polysciOly@gmail.com. And just something to keep in mind when you're actually taking the test is that Evan also mentioned this before, but I just like to reiterate that these tests are really difficult. So don't be discouraged if you feel like you don't really know what's happening. In prior years, we've had like the average score on a test was like 30% or something, but we're comparing you to like what everybody else is getting on these tests. So this is kind of not SciOly anymore, but these are just some other interesting science opportunities that you guys might want to check out. So we have like a sister club or sister team called Science Bowl. It's pretty different from SciOly. It's a buzzer style, so think like Quiz Bowl. And 2 teams of 5 compete against each other in like a high-paced, fun, I don't know, Jeopardy-esque something kind of along those lines, where you buzz in to answer science like questions in also different fields of science. They'll have a slide about it on club day, and you can contact palysciencepool@gmail.com if you have any questions about that. And then there's also individual Olympiads that we have at Paly, so that's like physics, bio, and chem. And we don't know exactly how those are going to work given the pandemic, but you can probably expect emails from Paly SciOly about signing up for these Olympiads. Yeah, okay, and then this is the link to the new member form that I mentioned earlier. Please submit this before September 26th. Like the link is here. If you don't get it down right now, don't worry, it's on our website. Again, check out our website if you have any questions. And yeah, just make sure to fill this out and be thorough because we do look over your responses. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Feel free.